Hello and welcome to the wrap-up of the Cowboy Bebops for Power On Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor, and with me is the clear-minded, clear-sighted, clearly not listening to what I have to say. Mr. Sushi B, how you doing?
I am still here, so I
I'm
am listening to what you have to say.
Oh, trying to make it funny.
It didn't work, unfortunately. I will say I did say to you off the record before recording that I do feel a slight bit unprepared just because to wrap this up, 26 episodes and a movie in just a short amount of time is going to be a bit of a small feat, but I am looking forward to discussing some of these final points and topics that we have in mind.
Yeah, technically 27 with the mishmash, but that is all right. I mean, it's a wrap up thing. I mean, this can go any which way we want.
It absolutely can. And you just gave us some direction before, so it should be fun.
So I guess I get to start us off here then.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to start us off and go to the music route.
Okay.
I know I'd mentioned it before. So I have and I don't know if there are other albums available elsewhere. Like the Bebop soundtracks were some of the first like CDs I remember buying with like my own money, doing my own work. Actually, kind of. I don't remember what the place was that I had bought them, but I would buy them offline, or like I'd buy them online from a place that was based down in Florida.
Okay.
So I was able to get because there's like the original soundtrack, there's the second original soundtrack, which is like called No Disc.
Okay.
And then the third one, which is called Blue.
And these are all imported, is that right?
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Okay, yeah, like these are not North American releases per se.
At least at the time they weren't.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll just throw it out. Like the third one, Blue. It has such like just the music all around. Like it has the CU Space Cowboys. The version that plays when Spike is infiltrating the Red Dragon headquarters.
Okay. So it's kind of lifted straight from the show. There's not really edited per se or
no,
altered.
It's edited, it cleaned up. It's just like the actual song, not
right.
Yeah, it's got "Call Me" on there. It's got the show's version of Ave Maria. Like that whole Go Cactus Man, the Andes theme, like it is just a stupidly stellar soundtrack. Just that third one. Like
how many
discs
is that?
Well, they're all one disc.
Oh, it's just one disc. Okay.
Yeah. There's just 3 separate soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Blue has 17 songs, and it starts off with Blue, like the ending theme of the series.
Yep.
And then, like, No Disc starts off with American Money, which is it is so great that they decide to start that one off with the show, because they start off. So the first soundtrack starts off with Tank. And then kind of goes through, and it's got strong. I think the first one's really good as well, but a bit more on the whatchamacallit, like blues jazz side of things, where Blue is a little bit more varied, and then No Disc, it kind of is all over the place, but it starts off with Big Shot's theme.
Okay.
Which, I mean,
that wailing banjo.
So you can't go wrong with that.
Does it have the gunshot sound too?
I don't remember.
That kind of helps really emphasize that intro, right?
Yep. Yeah, it does.
Nice. Nice. Because sometimes the songs like to edit out certain sound effects and things like that. And it's always nice when, when your brain is so triggered to a specific sound effect, like kicking off a song or within a song or whatever. And sometimes you get an OST and it's missing that element. And so in your head, you almost feel like you are required to make the sound for yourself. Whether it's like, you do it audibly out loud or at least in your brain. So
yeah, it's just like, man, this is missing something.
Yeah. It's a very important element.
Right. So like all that, and then of course the movie. The movie has really, really strong songs as well.
Yeah, it does.
Like "What Planet Is This" is one that I always really, really enjoy. That or the song. I don't remember where it pops up. I want to say it's when Ed and Ein are going and looking for the bounty and everything. And Mr. Spooky Dokey. And I think it's that one, but it's a song called Digging, and it's like this country song. It's great. It is, but it could be playing somewhere else. I don't quite. My brain's kind of disjointing that one, but that's a really enjoyable tune. That, and also of course the ending theme, "Gotta Knock a Little Harder." I really like that song a lot.
I liked, I sent you a couple days ago, I don't know how thorough that collection of tracks on that link that I sent you from, there's like a YouTube collection, whatever.
Right.
It didn't seem to me that was necessarily a specific disc. It looked like it was just a big mash of a bunch of the songs, because it was, I don't know, how long was that was it about 2 hours maybe, that whole link?
Yeah, it's
something
a little
like
over
that.
2
Yeah.
hours.
So it had quite a lot of songs on it, and I like that it's that particular collection of songs doesn't put anything in order, so it kind of forces you to go through. Not forces you, obviously, because they did a good job of here's the start end of each track or whatever, on the playlist line. But I like that it kind of doesn't just follow and here's episode 1s, 2s, 3s, like there were dispersed, in different spots.
Right. And from looking over it again, it more so follows the order of the soundtrack release CDs.
Oh, okay.
To some degree.
So they've just kind of squished them on there.
Yeah.
Into one long playlist.
Which is fine. It
totally
works.
If you just want to, listen to all the music, it's nice, and there's not really interruptions, because you sometimes get like a YouTube playlist and it'll only play that one song, and then it's gonna flip to the next video, but you get commercial or whatever, where it plays through pretty cleanly.
Yeah.
For the most part.
The only thing is when you get the we're going to make here's an ad.
I think this one's not too bad, though. I don't think that one's particularly, I don't recall encountering too many ads on that one, but maybe I'm misremembering.
Well, some of them can be really obnoxious, and I'm not saying that video in particular, but some of them just like it's like, okay, I've literally watched 3 minutes of something. Why are you giving me a 30-minute ad? Right. What is this? Right. Why? Who thought this was fair? Who thought this was a good idea?
Right.
Stop it.
Yeah, no, that's never fun if you're hoping to just put something on and go do cleaning or whatever, right? And you're constantly having to walk back over. Skip this ad. I'm tired of these ads. So. But I don't remember this one being too interrupted, if I recall. So. I mean, the music is so unique in that it's such an eclectic mix, and we've obviously talked about this several times going through episodes, but to range from heavy metal hairband rock for a song to much more of a traditional jazz song to scat or ska to bluegrass, twangy guitar to I mean, there's obviously certain genres are maybe not represented as highly, but I mean, you have some classical, like you said, Ave Maria. So they kind of dabble a little bit here and there and everywhere.
Well, and that in Mishmash, it kind of covers some bases and stuff that really doesn't get touched upon to some degree as well. So, like, in the Mishmash one, you do have to do a little bit of searching for,
right?
Because it's not on anything. But when you do find the album, it is. I mean, I will scour it as we continue talking here, but it was in my either favorites or my liked list. But you know how those things go.
Yeah.
Where it'll just be like, conveniently we're gonna lose you. Goodbye.
Right. Seek out a new option.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's definitely some there's definitely a lot of unique exposure to maybe perhaps, you know, some people are very, I don't know, tied to or have a really strong opinion on specific musical genres, right? Have a strong affinity to something, or maybe haven't dabbled in other forms of music, and so this is a good opportunity to maybe hear. They're not all winners, like of course, you know, it's impossible to be that way, but it's nice that the whole series and the franchise just kind of dabbles in so many different areas that you might get a little exposure to something you've never heard before, a genre that's just so foreign to you that getting that even smidge of an exposure to something and might tickle your interest to look further into that genre, find out what that guitar sound is, or find out what that, you know, that synth bass sound is, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's that sort of Tokyo pop genre in the movie, right? When Faye turns on her radio, that sort of style of music. I wouldn't say that, maybe you can correct me if this isn't right, but I don't remember there being like a lot of sort of synth wave or electronica, like really strongly.
Well, that's where they would kind of point towards the Mishmash.
Yeah.
Try to fill.
Sort of does, yeah, but
fill that niche slightly.
But it, you know, no genre can be completely covered. Like every genre can't be completely covered, but they do a good, you know, attempt. Like there's definitely lots there to work with.
It is, yeah. It bounces all over pretty well.
Yeah, and it's such a big topic that I tried to write down some tracks and listen to as much as I could. But as I said, due to time constraints and so forth, that wasn't necessarily possible. I will say for me, I can't think of a single song that was used in any of the dogfight scenes that I didn't think was appropriate. I remember them being very appropriate to the dogfight scenes if they were a bit more rock heavy or if they were a bit more jazz heavy. And I really enjoyed a lot of those tracks. I don't have all the names for them, but I do remember thinking that they fit well and they were fun to listen to, and they're fun to listen to outside of the show as well. I like the song Rush, was I think from the first episode. And then there was also New York Rush. Is that sort of a B-side of Rush? They're quite similar veins, so I feel like some of the tones are similar. I don't know if there's same instruments and stuff in there.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be considered B-side or not. It's not really something I would have a good idea on.
That's fair. I did notice that I liked a lot of the non-real folks blues ending themes, like Space Lion. I really like.
Yeah, that's a really great.
Yeah,
great
I think
tune.
they're a nice change up from. I'll be honest, I don't really find the real folk blues like bad, but I don't love it either. I'm just and probably because it's used almost every episode. It's kind of like, yeah, okay. Whereas like the end theme in the movie is really good. The end theme after episodes 26, or sorry, 26. 26 is really good. yeah, I like that they're changed up, right? I like that there's something a little bit different and kind of really signifying the importance of that episode, that there was, a really key point or marker met in that episode. So
Yeah.
I think Space Lion's really good. Yeah, Call Me is really good. Again, I don't typically like lyrics in these types of shows or in games and stuff, but it's got a very late 90s, like, the Verve or like some of those bands that were kind of that. It's still rock, but it's like edging between, what's the word? Not electronica, but sort of more in that. Oh, what's the word I want?
Like a
Not
fake
really synth,
orchestration.
but yeah, like it's not synth, but it's.
I get what. Yeah,
it's certainly not like a full orchestra, but it's definitely mimicking that. So yeah, and yes, like some of the lyrics are cheesy and stuff, but I think the emotion in the scenery in the show that's mimicking, and the lyrics are linking to that and stuff. It's a song you can listen to outside of. If you know people that like that sort of bit sappy rock, they would probably enjoy that song.
What's that? Too Good, Too Bad. I think it's the one that plays there in Gateway Shuffle when like Spike and Faye are trying to get out of the oh shoot, what is the thing called? The gate.
The gate tube or whatever.
Yeah, the gate tube.
Well, I don't know what it's called,
but yeah, where it's just that start of it, that. I always really liked that. It was stuck in my head.
See, another dogfight type song. So.
That or like I said, Blues. Pretty much all of Blue, which is like 17 songs, is really, really good. You mentioned Call Me. That's a good one. I also really like the Music Box tune. Yeah, the Greenbird, which is Julia's version. But I also like the one in Waltz for Venus with Stella by Moore.
Yeah,
I really like. I like that tune a lot.
Yeah, there's like we were just saying, the diversity really allows for a lot of unique choices that you can, and you really have to sit down and listen to a lot of the soundtrack over and over though to really catch the songs you might like, because even genres you wouldn't typically gravitate to, just specific scenes and stuff, continue to put that imagery in your mind after you've seen the show. And so you might start to really gravitate, but not necessarily go in and, now I love this genre. I want to hear all this different, I don't know, performers and bands and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's not me. I mean, I don't know. I can have a very tepid approach when it comes to music. Like, I like it. And then that's okay, I'm good.
Right. Unless it's bum, 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 bum. Those heavy drums. Yeah. The French horns and but that's a full orchestra, right? I mean, that's a little bit different. So.
I mean, Battle of the Mounds.
We'll get into that someday. That whole soundtrack. If you asked me tomorrow to pick 3 tracks from that, I would you might have to spin a wheel. It would be like selling part of your soul or something, because yes, you might as well put me on the wheel of pain for 30 years or whatever, because I'd have a hard time picking just 3.
You will be contemplating this on the tree of woe.
I will definitely be contemplating on the tree of woe. And damning you, because you killed my mother, you killed my father, you killed my people. And you can't forget, you took my father's sword. What? And then, he like falls down. Another day.
Another day. Another day.
Yes.
So that's the music. Are there stinkers? I mean, it's music.
Yeah.
You can really be like, there are no stinkers, because So I like this. Yeah. So whatever's
I think
like,
if you were listening to just the music and not have any connection to the show, I could see you easier to pull out the ones you'd be like, yeah, that one's really not for me. Whereas I
yeah.
think having some connection to the show, you'd be like, okay, I kind of remember that scene of that, and it's fine. I think you'd probably be more willing to accept the type of song even if you didn't like that genre.
Yeah.
I, I don't think we mentioned it. The intro song for the movie is really good too.
Ask DNA.
Yeah, I know we talked about the end theme, but I thought the
Yeah.
openings. I like that they didn't just go with Tank.
Right.
I thought that was a good choice on their part and very different kind of visual presentation for that as well. Not just they could have rehashed the television show and just put the longer version of Tank right to show the intro and stuff. But I'm glad it was kind of different.
Yeah, it was it's not that it's bad or anything. It's good. It's just I don't know. There's just kind of other songs that kind of clutter my brain before that one.
And if I had to choose that or Tank, I'd be like, well, I'd probably still edge on Tank's side. I think Tank is just a fun, you know, like the whole version of that song. When you actually hear the whole version, it feels so odd. Because if you've watched the show and you've only heard the, minute and a half or whatever that version is,
And you're like, hold
and
on a
then
minute.
when you get to that part where they're just going off, and it's like, you're like, what? And then it kind of wraps up at the end. You're like, okay, I'm back to what's familiar again.
Right.
It's very because the full version is what 5 or 6 minutes or something. Like it's quite long.
I didn't think it was that long. I thought it was only like 4.5 or something. But I mean,
I'm
that's
not sure, but
still
it's still much longer. And I've
much
seen some
longer than.
YouTube videos of like university students playing, and they're like to a T. Like it sounds just like the original recording. And I'm like, oh, this is quite
Nice.
impressive. Like that these people have put in that time to really try to hone that craft exactly the same, right? And yeah, that's pretty neat.
Nice. So yeah, all right. That's music. Where do you want to go to next?
I'm open
Unless there's
to anything. Like I don't know. It's hard to bounce from music to. There's no easy segue to
there
another
isn't.
topic.
No. Yeah. There really isn't.
Well, let's look at some of the not so great aspects because you had also put on this list episodes we don't really prefer or like.
Yeah.
Why don't we kind of go that way?
Okay. All right.
I don't have a lot. Like I think for the most part, getting through an episode being 20 to 22 minutes is easy enough to just digest even the ones that are not stronger in your opinion. So I think I only wrote down 3 and I could have probably put a 4th.
Yeah, I think I forced 4, but there's like just a few that kind of came to mind. I was like, it's
I
not
can think
even
of
that
one
they're
for you.
bad.
I can think of one that I'm pretty sure would be on your list.
All right, it's not even like they're bad. It's
No,
just
yeah,
like
they're not
it's just not
bad. It's just that particular episode just doesn't. And being so episodic and more of an anthology collection allows for that, to be like, oh, I can accept that this was going for this type of technique, this view, this genre, whatever. And you can just be like, yeah, not mine. I'd rather go to these ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to just go back and forth then, since it sounds like we have roughly the same?
Certainly. Yes, let's do that.
My first one is Gateway Shuffle.
I had that one on there.
Yeah,
that was the one I was like, I'll throw it on here.
Yeah, it's not horrible or anything. It's just, I mean, the villains are just kind of, yes, I mean, especially Mama. It's just
that's the thing. The Maria Murdoch is the reason why, because I cannot stand her.
I remember,
and it's not even like she's a bad character. It's
No.
just that she's just so vile. I'm like,
yeah.
Get her away.
They did a good job with her imagery and stuff too, of being very just like, ugh, like go away.
Right. And when she's doing that singing, "Oh, make monkeys of you all," and I'm just like, shut up.
The fan and I like to shoot her, trebuchet her straight into the sun.
Oh wow, that seemed kind of like you had to fork that one out.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, long ago I had a joke with a friend. We were talking about catapulting people, so it's like, nope, I'm not even. I'm trebucheting them. Never mind. They don't deserve a catapult.
This needs to be complicated because I
Yeah.
need to work this out.
I need to make this as brutal as possible. Yeah, just I think the overall feel of Gateway Shuffle is just kind of it's there, it's fine, but if I have to choose ones that I'm not that strong about, that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's not even like it's kind of like the sad little afterthought from what you get with Faye being introduced in 3.
Right.
So it kind of just like, oh wait, we gotta there she joins
I mean, kind of
anyway.
joins. Kind of.
Well,
Really.
no, yeah, with 4 kind of at the end there.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, okay, all right, cool.
Right.
So that and just yeah, no thanks. Don't need no sea rat.
No.
So
The old Ganymede sea rat.
All right, since you went that route, how did you go again? Things.
Okay, because I'm thinking my next one's probably on your list too.
Okay.
I have Session 7 with Heavy Metal Queen.
Actually, no.
Oh, okay.
I was not one. I was like, no, I think I got some other ones.
Yeah. I'm sure of one. Like, I'm 100% sure of one. Because I know you hated the character that was introduced in that episode. So.
No, we'll see.
I'm really certain. I'd definitely bet money on it. But yeah, anyways, Heavy Metal Queen. Again, not like a horrible episode or anything. I like the VT character, but I think it's just the pacing of it is a little bit and just sort of the the bounty's not that all enticing in that one. Other than like the gag with Faye in the kids' world ice cream parlor or whatever,
right.
Whatever that is. like okay, that's kind of funny or whatever, but the rest is just sort of meh. And I mean, I sort of like getting a bit of a dynamic of Spike and learning sort of a bit about him, I guess.
Yeah, a little
sort
bit.
of. But I remember I didn't really enjoy the whole shooting the gun in space and all that stuff. I was like, this stuff is not really, I don't really find it that interesting.
Yeah.
But I did like, the idea of guessing the name, and there are elements that are enjoyable for sure in it. But it's just kind of on my lower end of if I had to pass this one, I would.
Gotcha. One for myself, like I said, not bad. It's just were the issues that you felt with Heavy Metal Queen, I feel with this one, and it's jamming with Edward.
Okay.
Like I just don't really care for the MPU thing.
Right.
The dodging lasers bit, that's kind of nice. Jet getting some footwork in. And seeing how loop-de-loop
Edward's
people
a 7 foot tall,
right,
fish-tailed, whatever stuff. Nonsense.
Like that's kind of funny, and just some of the back and forth. But it drags for me. Like it's just one of those. I'm just kind of like I'm. By the time that it shows Ed hacking the police car, I'm checked out. I'm like, okay. I'm good. I don't need this.
Fair enough.
So.
Okay. My for sure third one is I don't really find Wild Horses all that exciting as well.
That's where you're wrong.
No, I don't think it's bad per se. Again, it's just more on my if I had to skip this one, I wouldn't be hurt by that. I don't hate it or anything. I don't know. It's just. It's not bad to be a bit slower paced, but what's that?
I just said I remember when we were doing the review for that one, you really were.
Yeah, again, it's not a bad episode or anything. It's just sort of a lot of these Spike episodes don't really evolve his character per se. Whereas if we're looking at a Faye episode, Jet episode, we actually get some substance that Spike's lacking, because I get the idea of the characters being cold to the world and all this sort of stuff, but I think they're just missed opportunities in a lot of ways. And I know you can analyze the Spike character till, the end of time, right? And, it's because, he's one eye on the future and on the present and one in the past and all this kind of stuff. I get all that, but it doesn't mean that, he's just... And I know that's something that irks you about the character, right? Of just not getting those lessons whatsoever, just completely turning a blind eye constantly to any of these lessons and just, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Whatever happens,
Right.
whatever happens. And so I feel like, again, there's some cool stuff in the episode. Like there are some neat things, but just as a whole, it's more, if I have to pass it, I'm fine with passing it.
Okay. The next one I have on here is Sympathy for the Devil.
Okay.
Like I don't mind. It's just another one of those that just feels like it drags to me.
Okay.
Like I don't mind the supernatural bit. It's neat with the quote unquote kid and everything.
Giraffe and zebra. And that stuff.
Yeah, it's the giraffe and zebra stuff that really just kind of drag it down for me. It's like this is kind of going on the side, and it's not really.
If I remember when we reviewed that one, we were intrigued in that those two characters, and kind of were hoping that they could have delved a bit more into it, and it was kind of left a little too mysterious.
Well, that, but also it just is like, just use the dream catcher thing,
right?
And it's like, oh, okay,
right,
all right, sure.
The whole episode was just to have a moment of Spike being cool and blowing the guy up with a single shot, basically. And I mean, he doesn't blow up, but
right,
shrivels and dies.
Well, I mean, it does give some, some really big drops on. Hey, the moon exploded.
Right.
We done goofed. So there is that. Plus, you get the couple scenes with Jet and Fatty, which is
those
kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
But yeah, overall, it's not one that I
blues or whatever, since it was whatever. I can't remember the line now.
Listen to the blues since I was in my father's sack.
Something like that. It's like a hipster baby. Very cool.
But it's just one of those that just doesn't really resonate with me.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. The last one that I was kind of thinking of putting on is, and I feel like people probably do like this episode, but Cowboy Funk is just another one that doesn't really do a ton for me. I kind of don't really like the back and forth. Like there's parts of it that are kind of fun, but I think it's better done in the movie to have like the opposite mirror of Spike with Vincent. I find that a little more interesting rather than the goofy side of the Cowboy Funk episode. But,
yeah, I think it's just a spin on it.
Yeah, they basically do it twice, right? You go with the let's go real weird with a mirror image, and now let's go super serious in the movie with a mirror image. So, and just like them climbing the building and stuff like that at the end, and
well, I mean, it's a mirror, but it's a mirror from a different angle.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Here's his egotism,
right?
Really, really like his not holier than thou, but just kind of up his own ass.
Yeah.
Whereas, the other kind of dour approach is, I don't know. I'm on the complete opposite end of that one. But.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, it's not horrible. Like none of these are horrible, right?
Right.
They're absolutely not. But just if I were to skip through and say I only had a day to watch most of the episodes, like those would be the ones I would be passing over.
So I got one last one.
Yeah, and I still think I'm still pretty confident, but you might break my heart. You might be, you might not be there.
Well, because I think I'm breaking your heart.
Okay.
Because I think so if I'm going to get into your head for a moment, I think you think I'm going to say Bohemian Rhapsody.
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Well, I'm gonna go with Pierre Lafaux.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
I remember our recording, and you were just like, "This villain is just." Ugh.
Yeah,
That was absolutely the one I was thinking of, and I was like, I want to
right.
say it because it's just
I
you out with it. No, I know you didn't like this episode. You didn't
well,
like the whole like experiment part. I just know you didn't like this one.
Yeah, it's just not like well, but I had some strong things to say about Bohemian Rhapsody as well. But
Okay,
like,
no, but this one I was pretty certain was on there.
yeah, it's just not. Uh, I don't know. It's just never really. I didn't find it interesting. I don't like. I like horror, but this doesn't. And I know I have two of them on there that have kind of the spookier sides of things, but I like Toys in the Attic.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah, that one's good. I love Brain Scratch. Like that one. That one really scratches my brain. I really, really like that one. But yeah, this one is just I don't. This is kind of like where like similarly with where it gets silly with horror or something where I'm just like no, not quite.
Right.
Or we kind of talked about it with like Conan and Escape from New York / LA. It's just kind of like, oh, we went to the silly thing, or fifth film, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Is that the fifth one? I think that's the fifth one.
I can't remember, but yeah.
No, Battle for the Planet.
Like many film franchises and stuff, the longer they go, the more likely you're going to get something silly.
You got to get the Sunday afternoon.
Get the sillies out.
PG film.
Once a week.
My God, I doubt.
We need a 3-hour time fill. What are we going to show? Something lighthearted.
You can just tell, and that's yeah. Not to say, but it's just not an enjoyable one to me from that, and just how, it's just. Dude's a DBZ character flying around. I'm waiting for him to just do something ridiculous. Yeah, he can just go.
Even his death is, it's gruesome, but it's kind of ridiculous too.
Yeah.
He just gets squished by a giant mechanized, I don't know, teddy bear or whatever it was that stepped on him, right? It's quite ridiculous.
It is very.
And there are elements of it that are neat, right? Like you said, some of the horror stuff is kind of cool, but. Like just the shadow effects and things like that in some of the episodes, like the beginning, right? Him coming out of the pool hall, and there are some neat things, but yeah, I was really certain that was on your list. I didn't even think Bohemian Rhapsody, honestly. This is one I was like quite sure.
Gotcha.
And I'm quite sure of one that's definitely on your positive list as well.
Well, I gave one away, and I'll start with that one, which is Cowboy Funk. I really like Cowboy Funk a lot.
Okay.
So, I like the just kind of digging into Spike, I guess, where it's like, yeah, dude, this is you. This is just like
If you were a complete tool.
Well, but he is a tool to begin with, so it's just like
not as much as
I would less like it's just more an expressive tool. If he was a little bit, if he was less aloof. This is the asshat that he would be. So, if he had money, if he didn't, money, kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. But I like it's an enjoyable one to me because it'll lean into something else we'll get into. But I enjoy it all around. So, how about yourself?
Well, the one I think that's on your list is going to be Brain Scratch, session 22.
Yes.
And that was a gimme because I know you expressed that quite a few times when we did that episode.
Right.
Yeah. And I really like this episode a lot too. Like it's just so bizarre. Right? It's got such unique elements to it, and everyone kind of gets a bit of a piece to the episode, which is nice too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ed isn't just sitting on the sidelines as much as Ed kind of gets forced to do in a lot of episodes. So, and just it's interesting because and I know you don't really like breaking the fourth wall per se, but it kind of does, but within enough of a context of not going, full meta or whatever you want to call that, right? It does, but it doesn't. It pulls in and it draws back. It pulls in and it draws back. It doesn't just sit. And it does a good job of kind of balancing that.
I think my thing with the fourth wall breaking that annoys me is when it's insultingly obvious, where it's just like, okay, unless it's meant to be like a cheeky film thing, and even then it's just kind of like, all right, whatever. Yeah. Here it's less about like trying to yank you in.
Yeah.
With that, and it's more of just it's there.
Yeah.
There's an invitation for you to be, and not necessarily. I mean, you get that with Londus's character staring at you,
like right at you,
with the watching the TV, where it's you're kind of, or at least the audience is forced in that perspective and stuff. It's just. Yep. It's one of my favorite, and it's one that's kind of like sneaked up on me that way, where it's just like, yeah, this is just a phenomenal episode that really just kind of hits those parts very well.
Yep.
Back to me. I
have another one I think is probably on your list, but
you probably. I mean, I think a couple of these are pretty on point, easy for me. My Funny Valentine. I really like that episode.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have guessed that one.
So, yeah, I enjoy it.
It's a nice fun episode.
Yeah, it's a fun episode, and it's nice that Faye gets a little bit more of the stage. And to at least get some idea of her and whatnot. So
yeah, it's a fun episode, and I like all the flashback stuff. Is kind of an interesting sort of pseudo romantic comedy or just romance, right? Like it's not an element we see a ton in the series. I mean, we get a bit like at the end, if you want to say, with Spike and
Julia.
Thank you, Julia. I was gonna say Linda. I don't know why. With Julia, right? And a bit of a tragic romance or whatever there, right? And this to a degree, but it's played for laughs to more of a. So this was maybe leans a bit more to almost a romantic comedy a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's tame, right? It doesn't make fun of you as the viewer, whereas a lot of times those movies do. And some of them are, I'll be frank, like some romantic comedies are really good. They do a good job of balancing that, and quite a few don't, right? And that's where everyone's like, oh, they're just trashy movies or whatever. But there are good ones. There are ones that are funny, and this would be I would put that in line with this, right? It's serious when it needs to be. It's fun when it needs to be. It's romantic-ish when it needs to be, and it's a good episode.
Yeah, it's nice mishmash of stuff. So. All right. To you?
Yeah.
I don't know how many you have left. I wrote down 6, so I could have wrote down more, but I was like, I'll just write down 6.
Yeah, I wrote down 6 as well. I didn't want to go overboard. Yeah. Well, I guess we were in the same mindset for a bunch of these. I didn't want to go too overboard with too many of the negative ones, but then the ones I really like, I probably could have added more, but
well, and that was the thing. Like with the negative ones, I like. It's like you're saying. It's not that they're bad or anything. These are just don't jive. Like they just and so yeah.
Like I said, I like equating it to like if you had only a single day to go through the whole series, you'd be like, yeah, I can probably skip this one right now, or even.
What are you talking about? You watch the whole series. It's only 10 and a half hours. Come on.
Yeah. Anywhere you can shave down would be nice.
I thought that's where you skip the intros and outros.
I don't think we're 10 and 11 years old anymore, where 10 hours just seems like an eternity, and we have it available to us.
I will make the time.
I have, and I'm not sure. I feel like this is probably on your list. It might not be, but Ganymede Elegy.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite episode.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was probably on your list, but it's just such a nice. It's heartfelt and it's heartbreaking at the same time, but it teaches you a lesson, and I just find it I like that the music is a lot somber in that episode, and I feel like I know you've talked about like how you feel Jet doesn't really progress, but in this episode he shows promise, right? And it's early on in the series, So you feel like Jet might come out of all of this a little bit on top in the
Mm-hmm.
end. So I like that it, for so many episodes, not giving us much of a positive conclusion or positive outlook. This one kind of tries to do its best to do so. And it's, again, this is a bit of a romance, or it's a bit of a romantic episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, at least for a moment, he does win, but then habits are very hard to break, and just because you learn the lesson doesn't necessarily mean you beat the habit, and that's unfortunately where Jet finds himself, is still, I mean, yeah, he just a couple episodes later, he does what he does with allowing Spike back on the ship and all that sort of stuff. He's just too.
He's a big teddy bear.
Yeah, he's just too. Like, sure, when he gets rolling, he can get rolling, but when he's comfortable with these people, he likes to stay with those kind of people and not like. So
I guess you could argue, he did learn something there, and he's trying to keep these people close now because he lost something in this time. Inadvertently, he's trying to keep Spike around because it does fill a void for him. Like, you could look at it different ways, but...
Yeah, you could look at it that way, but then it's also like, look at what happened when you tried to, hold on to that, even in just a metaphorical sense. Mm-hmm. Like here, he's doing that in a physical sense with trying to keep these people there and whatnot, but. He also knows from learning from this is that people are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, he can certainly try to talk them out of it, but it's like, there's no point. Like, you're just going to do what you're going to do. So just do it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, now that's, Ganymede Elegy is probably my favorite. If it's not, it's, I'm either lying to myself or it's pretty close. So, for me, another one that I really, really enjoy is Jupiter Jazz episode 1.
Okay.
So I really, just how kind of Faye absconds with Olive 3 Wulong, and the whole bit of getting a little bit more of Vicious, as well as it was one of the few times I really like the bit where Spike is fighting and then he gets mistaken for Vicious and he gets really upset.
Right.
And I like that little scene and just the jazz bar, just the vibe of that, and there's a bit more of a, not to say that 2's bad, but 1 in particular really always stands out to me because there's just that same somber that's in Ganymede Elegy. It plays out here, but it is in a very different. It's pulling on different emotional strings, and I likes it a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely got a coolness about the episode, and I don't mean like as in it's just like the nature of it, right? It's a laid back episode with a lot of serious things happening. But there's just something about, I think the music plays a big part of that, right? That sort of slower jazz that goes through a lot of the episode. And so it's a good one. And I would probably, these aren't on my list, but I would probably agree that I think the first one has a really good catch and setup to it. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, by the time you get to the second one, you're like, the payout wasn't as great as I think it could have been. It's not bad or anything. It's just sort of like, the first one is so smooth in the presentation and introducing of characters and stuff that by the time you get to the second one, you're like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if, because it's more of an anthology with its episodes, if doing the 2 for kind of shows not necessarily an inability, but just a difficulty with having a continuation like that.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I wonder if that second part came up much later on somehow, right? Like, if they could still thread the plot line that they went off and did other things and somehow reconnected those characters later. Yeah, I wonder if it would feel different, but it'd been hard to do, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I guess back to me.
Mm-hmm.
I also have Black Dog Serenade on my list.
Okay.
I like that one a lot as well. I know it's got some pretty violent section in that one, unfortunately, but I think it's neat to just see again a bit more about Jet, and because he has such a visual component to his character with his arm, to get any backstory on that is neat. And I find Uday is he doesn't get much time on screen, but a complex and interesting character that would have been neat to see show up again. But I like I find the whole like final moments, like the climactic moments, and just being in that shaded like red overlay when they're on the ship and stuff like that. I think it's got a good coolness about it. I love the film noir aspect of the episode, and just the flashback scenes being in that what do you call it? Not monochrome, but what is that?
Like a sepia or sepia?
Sepia or sepia. Yeah, I like that. I think it looks cool, and to see sort of Jet's personality a little bit different, his past
a little
personality.
looser.
Yeah, just sort of. Yeah, it's a really cool episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to touch on the other part of Jet. One that I like that always gets ragged on is Boogie Woogie Feng Shui.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve to get ragged on. I like this. It's not my top, but I do like this episode too.
It is a shaggy dog of a story, and it fits the black dog. And like it's just one of those things. Jet's allowed to have fun, and it doesn't have to come at the expense of him eating mushrooms and eating lipstick. Like he, like
or being stripped down to his skivvies because Faye's cheating at
right
at the dice game,
and he doesn't know any better.
Yeah,
or is just too honorable to think that somebody would cheat, especially a comrade, quote unquote. But yeah, I like it. It colors in bits and pieces of the world / setting that you really don't get to see as much in. I mean, even as bright as that can be, Jet murks a dude pretty tough in front of kids, nonetheless. Yes. It's just like, all right, snap.
Whoa, you killed that guy. Yep.
Whoa! Check out this dude's glasses.
But I think it's an interesting flip flop with this episode, talking about balance and talking about calmness, right? And your forces of nature and things like that, and then to have that critical moment that's so different than what the rest of the episode is presenting and expressing is notable and important in that episode.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is it. It's almost like the continuation of Ganymede Elegy in a certain way. More of just like, hey, free yourself up, not necessarily just in a romantic sense, but just in general, like. Get that ball rolling. Don't let yourself get stuck in the mud.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep, for sure.
So,
yeah, it looks like I have 3 left. Is that what you're still on? Or?
I'm done. We.
Oh, I guess because I at least pinched Ganymede Elegy from you and Brain Scratch. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you're just swiping all of mine. That's all right.
Okay. Well, I'll just couple these together. I know they're not in order. But Honky Tonk Woman, I really like the whole casino aspect. I just find it's a really cool, fun episode. Just the whole bit with the poker chip and just introducing Faye and getting that sort of really small planted seed about what was the nickname she had, right? The gambling queen
Alice.
or god or whatever. Yeah. So I like that. I think that's really neat, foreshadowing that happens. And just the back and forth, the early back and forth between Spike and Faye, and getting to know them off the hand. So I really like that one. And then just because it's again basically in the same title, but Hard Luck Woman as well. I really find I probably didn't like that episode initially.
Okay.
My initial watching, like when I watched this a long time ago, but there's just a lot of emotion shared in that episode, and to see Faye and I don't hate Edward, but I don't love the Edward character all that much either. But to be the one that has any sort of hope, out of everything, makes so much sense for the character, right?
She is the best of them.
Yes, not to let the character fall in the same traps as the other crewmates.
Right, because she makes the choice to actually be proactive.
Yep. And Faye to sort of
Spike does, but in kind of the wrong way.
In the opposite direction. Yeah.
But he's proactive. He's just
by force, more or less, right? Like he feels his hand is forced because of the things that happen around him. But yeah, like Faye sort of getting a bit of a conclusion and kind of also looking for a win now, right? Like she's run from her past because she doesn't know what it is, and now to kind of be able to feel like she can conclude that and finally maybe find something in her life. And just like I think that ending is sad but hopeful too, right? Like it's Ed leaves, and you can look at it as being sad, but you have to be happy that she's been set free, if you will, kind of thing.
Well, it's like like friends that end up choosing to do something that they want to do, and that happens to just kind of cause that separation. And you can see how it can make people possibly resentful, or just kind of stuff your face with hard-boiled eggs.
Yes, so, as your only way of coping.
But
then like Faye, finding her home and making her bed, right? Like trying to, there's just a lot of really interesting emotion that's played throughout the episode. So
it's a really, really good, strong episode.
It's a good, and the whole wrapping, last 5-minute section is done very well. And then it's an episode I don't feel you care too much for, but don't maybe necessarily hate, and that's the Mushroom Samba, which I knew you knew that I was going to have that on there because it's just so wacky, right? And it's I like this episode from the very first time I saw it, just because I have interest in that film genre of blaxploitation and just how silly it all is, and probably has my favorite line in the whole series with what you referred to earlier with Jet, sitting there talking to his panda trees. Hey, I guess the world is really a great place, or however he words, and just how silly it all is, right? And Spike walking up, the stairway to heaven. Got to get another musical reference in there, and so it's just a fun, dumb episode, right? Like it's just that it's very much within the anthology line, right? You can easily skip this episode and not miss anything. But if you just want to have something that's just so silly, you can go ahead and watch it. So,
it's something that I don't know. Like it's a silly thing, but it's like I don't know. It's like not to say that it, like you said, I wouldn't think of it as a bad episode or anything. I'm just kind of like, okay, like that's really all it is to me. It's like, okay, like I guess I don't know, when it comes to silliness, to have it so concentrated is one thing where I'm like, it's for me, I prefer it a little bit more sprinkled out as opposed to
all just in one blast.
right, where I'm just kind of like, okay, I can tolerate it for certain things and then enjoy it for other things and stuff. But there's just sometimes I'm just kind of like, and I mean, I used to like really dislike this episode.
Mhm.
So, but that's also because I just didn't care for Ed.
Yep.
So.
Yep. No, for sure. Yeah. So ready to move into some bounties then?
It is bounty time.
So I struggled with this a little bit because I didn't come up with a lot, basically. I don't know
Okay.
how many you came up with, but I found
a few.
Okay, yeah, I found for me, I was more interested in characters that maybe didn't really have bounties.
Okay.
So that's why I'm I don't want to say derailing necessarily, but
You're cheating.
a little bit, yes.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, it's an anthology, so
Yeah, let's pick the bounties.
Rules are made to be broken.
Weren't you the one that suggested that?
I don't remember. We had planned this a few weeks back, so honestly, possibly, yeah.
I am going to say yes because it makes me feel better.
You're welcome to feel better. These aren't the main characters or anything. Like for me, one was one that I mentioned earlier, and that was Uday.
Okay.
But Uday didn't have a bounty necessarily, did he? Because he was already captured.
Yeah, they didn't ever really. I don't think they ever really had one specified for him.
Right, and that's where it's like, that one's tough because it is a character I wish we could have known more, just with that whole syndicate connection and being. Was he the top assassin, or at least one of the top?
At least one of the top.
One of the top, yeah. So obviously he probably had a bounty to get captured at some point. I'm assuming.
Maybe.
But we're not given a number necessarily. But I just like the look of the character. He looks, he's like lanky, but he does enough in the episode where you're thinking, yeah, this guy he's vicious. He'll do anything, right, to either get his point across or get the job done or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting that the syndicate is so, willing to cut ties with him so easily. And I guess they're confident enough that he's not going to get to them in some manner.
Right. Well, it could be a sign that there is such a strong degradation, and however long he'd been in prison, that it's like, whatever. We don't need this kind of thing. New rules, new game.
Right.
I mean, you get an idea of it going on, that things are really just kind of falling at the seams, or bursting in the seams and just falling apart, where it's just like things are not going well,
right?
Like at all.
Right. Yep. So that one. I know you can argue it's maybe a bit of a cheat, but I mean the likelihood is he had a bounty on him. We just don't know what it is.
So. All right. Well, I will throw out the one of these here, which is I like the bounty for Londis, Dr. Londis, for Rosin Spangen. It's just because the whole brain scratch thing and having this front. I know it is kind of the inversion of what was going on there with Sympathy for the Devil, where you have old person trapped in young body trapped in old person,
right?
And just the vindictive, and understandably so, vindictive lashing out that this person is doing,
right?
And under the guise of, I'm just trying to help. Everybody's suffering. Right? Everybody's suffering. Why would you want to suffer? Right. I mean, I know. I feel it. I'm suffering.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a very, very insidious, darkly spun thread. And yeah, I kind of like he gets kind of put in a box, and you're like, oh man, he just gets to suffer with it, and nobody will be any wiser of it.
Right.
Because they're not telling him anything. So I don't know if that punishment really justifies it or not.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good one.
So that's another one I like. So back to you.
I think this might be on your list. I'm not sure, but Abdul Hakim?
No,
No? Okay.
he's
I
not.
know you like,
I don't dislike him, but
yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I do like the character because he's quite memorable and, he towers over everybody.
Mm.
Um, just some of the scenes where he's like grabbing guys by the head and just like moving out of the way. And I
The
mean,
punch, the
we cannot be
glorious punch.
remiss to ignore the, hey, that's our, and just doesn't even look at the guy just because his arms are so long. He doesn't even have to get out of the car. Like his fist just comes flying out, just knocks him out immediately. Just like, again, visually, a very noticeable and distinguishable character, right? When they're doing all the running sequences, because that
Hmm.
whole episode is basically like a chase movie, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he's so visually eye-catching because
Hmm.
his physical frame is so big and all of that, right? And he's so like his gait, everything, right, is just so distinguishable.
Mm.
Yeah, and even like the scene where the fortune teller, right?
Right.
It's just
But what about my money?
yeah, just a lot of
Here's
his
someone I'm rich.
yeah, a lot of his actions and things like that are kind of fun and compelling. So
Mm.
it's weird that I don't find the whole episode that interesting as a whole, but him
Yeah.
as a character is kind of a fun bounty.
Well, he does pop up, but it's not. Mm, he's not like fully weighted into it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not bad or anything, but there was a couple others that kind of popped into my mind, like Teddy Bomber. I mean, I I still can't get over the fact that they totally went and made a character called Teddy Bomber.
Yeah.
Uh, um, uh, and he making a point. You kind of you really don't have a lot of them making points like this, or at
Mm-hmm.
least in general of hey, there is something wrong with society, and I will tell them that there's something is wrong by blowing stuff up.
Right.
It's like, couldn't you? Couldn't there be a better way to do this? No.
No.
You got to blow stuff up. I like him, and I like how he is sort of this. He's got a point. Not not to say that that is the agreed
The
upon point
answer.
of
Yeah.
just blowing, yeah, or the answer to for the point that he's making
Mm-hmm.
of just this concern. But this is where it's like it's like when somebody spills something and you go, "Hey, somebody spilled something."
Right.
Okay, like how about we clean it up?
Right.
Like, it's one thing to tell somebody to be like, hey, something spilled, be careful. That's totally makes sense. But, how about just cleaning up the thing and going from there? And I
Right.
get that that is a very overly simplification of it, but in the same hand, it's like, well, it's easy to point out a problem, but to try to undo the kinks that the problem that you're pointing out has caused, that would probably be the better step to make instead of just going, hey, there's a problem, guys. I'm just going to add to it because screw it. Let's just keep blowing stuff up. So,
Right.
but I still like it.
Yeah, it's definitely an out there character, and just
Mm.
sort of how disregarded he is,
Yes.
because he's obviously can be a dangerous individual,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants obviously the attention and doesn't get it. So,
Right. I think that's also, yeah, a great point. And I think I made that in the I think we made that in the review, was just how it's like nobody listens to him.
Yeah.
Everybody's just kind of absorbed in their own thing and they don't really care.
Right. Which is crazy because obviously he's doing some pretty despicable things, right? And
right.
I think that's probably why that episode is leaning more into the comedy, right? Like you have that stupid rivalry going on, and they can't be bothered to think that, a lot of risk is being put out here by just ignoring this person who could particularly do a lot of damage.
Absolute psycho.
Yep.
But I think this also does a good job of reflecting. Yeah, this is kind of what people do.
Yeah. Go to the extreme to get attention.
Well, that, but also unless there's a real big reason or need to, I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not even going to bother.
Right.
Whatever. So.
Yep. Try harder, Teddy.
No. All right, back to you.
Okay. I don't think this one would be up there for you, but I do like the Asimov bounty.
Okay.
I know it's an introduction, and so I like that it, at least for me, it kind of introduces what a bounty would typically be like. And I remember you not feeling the first episode's bad per se, but it's not super strong. And I feel like maybe I'm a little more I like that it's an introductory, and I think it goes back to maybe a bit for you. That was my first introduction to the show, was the first episode, right? So, and for you, not so much. I don't know what episode you said was watched first, but it wasn't that one.
Yeah.
I don't, but I like the bounty. I like the chase. I like it sets up so much for what is to come.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that it plants some seeds about the syndicate. It plants some seeds about a few different things, and I think there's some interesting things, like you get the first person view, right, when he's on the drugs and the red eye and stuff like that, and his demise at the end too, right? Of you don't even get the bounty in the end, so it kind of sets up that pattern for the rest of the series as well.
Right.
Yeah, so I like that. Just he's such a paranoid psycho, and yeah, it's very simple in execution, but it's done for me well enough.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't hate him. I mean, he's one of the few that gets a really bit of strong screen presence.
Yeah, it's true.
So at least for the TV stuff.
Yep.
And it could be because it is the intro, because it is laying down all these other bricks and breadcrumbs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He just, I don't necessarily hate him, but like some of the stuff, like I guess my thing is that he doesn't really. I'm not as compelled by him so much because it's like, this is just a rat trying to get out of a trap.
Yeah, he's not an exciting pick necessarily, right? Like he's not, not a big hook into him or anything. But I just like that it lays so much groundwork of. It's very straightforward, simple to understand. Yeah.
So because we don't really, or haven't really talked too much about it, I'm gonna throw out Vincent there from the movie.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I was considering, but I wasn't sure if I should go there or not. But yeah, Vincent's a good bounty for sure.
Right. I mean, I figure just the strong presence, the super duper healing ability, we'll say. But yeah, just everything about him is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Very maybe overly calculative, we'll say, at certain points, where it's just like, I don't know about this. This seems a little bit of a reach to be able to plan this out, but for movie's sake, okay, I guess. But yeah, I like his look.
Yep.
Especially his warlock look. You should have kept the warlock.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think he's a really good character, and I like the like, yeah, he's got good screen presence, right? Just a compelling piece to him. He's in some great action sequences. I know you like the end fight. If I had to choose, I'd probably pick the train sequence. I something about the train sequence is just
It's
it's good. Like, they're both good. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think some of the CGI, like when we did that review for the final sequence, kind of throws me off a little bit and stuff.
okay.
Yeah, and just sort of feels a little. It's the right length, but for me, it also feels a little long-winded. Whereas the train sequence, it flows a little differently. It's not just like a martial arts standoff, right? You have a bit of the gunplay at the beginning, and then a bit of the elemental, or sorry, like, I guess the environment. What's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of. I can't find the word I want. But just like, spikes hanging out the window, right? Like, there's an elemental danger, or like an environmental danger as well as part of the sequence, where that's a little bit lost in the final scene. Yeah, there's a little more stuff going on in that train sequence. Yeah. So.
Gotcha. All right. And I guess back to you. I don't know.
Yeah, I just have a last one, and again, I think you could argue it being debatable, because I maybe you remember, maybe I'm misremembering. Does Gren have a bounty?
I think technically, I think there is a.
But it's not announced again for this one, is it?
No. There is.
But I don't know if the number is said to us, is it?
It's like 14 million or so. It gets mentioned. Well, maybe it doesn't. The number doesn't get mentioned, but it does get mentioned on Big Shot when Jet goes to call Spike, and he's like, "Wait, what am I doing?"
Right.
And then the bartender's like, "Hey, this is a hideout for a bounty head, just like me."
Right.
And it's like,
yeah, okay. When Jet's wearing that traditional, like, Russian winter hat. It's a good look for him too. Jet looks good with hats. He just does. Just a good look for him. I think it's the whole beard and everything. Just the cool look for him. Yeah. The Gren character is a really interesting character that lots of interesting backstory and compelling. You get very drawn to the character. A lot of curious things about the history behind the character, like the bodily change to the character is interesting. The weird sort of connection with Faye, right? If I recall, when we did that conversation, we were talking a lot about that.
A bit.
But it's intriguing, but it's also like uncomfortable. But and like just the way Faye is presented in the scenes, and it's just there's something about Gren that's very compelling, and it's neat that there's a connection, an inadvertent connection to Spike because of Vicious there, and I like the Gren character. I think. I mean, I'm glad that we don't get too much more, but I also wouldn't have been opposed to getting more about Gren, or if Gren had somehow showed up later on, let's say in the last 2 episodes, to assist Spike and then, pass on then or something. Yeah. So, but I do like the Gren character.
Yeah, I think you'd have to rework it to some degree.
For sure, you would, and maybe if they had split those 2 episodes, as you said, if somehow that could have worked out, in Gren's favor somehow, or yeah. But I find the character very compelling.
Yeah, Gren's character is a strong presence, and just also because it's the connections there with Vicious, and also having met Julia, it's the how to put it. It's like when they put in those plates to try to do Terra sonar. So they have to like bounce it off, like triangulate it off of things to be able to get. Okay. It's kind of like that, right? You're having to bounce off of something that's not directly, but it's just sort of, it's got a relationship to it.
Yeah, it certainly adds a
So,
layer to.
mhm.
It doesn't. We don't have to directly know more about Vicious because we get this layer that
Right.
supports that. So
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it about for me. I do
okay.
like the apple deli. I like the 50 Wulong.
Yeah, 50 long.
But he's just such a weirdo. It's like,
He's totally.
I mean, I get it. Yeah, Ed puts the bounty on.
Sure,
But it's
but
just
like
like
1 minute, supreme master martial artist, and then the next minute, brain falling out of his ear, like behavior, right?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
And can't remember anyone's name, and
I'm just a social moron.
yeah,
So.
it's just a total weirdo. But yeah, that's all I had for bounties as well. So.
Yeah, so I guess we're good on that. Before wrapping up, one last little thing. Is there anywhere in the universe that has been presented that you're like, I'd be neat to visit this place?
I don't know. I mean, I know we talked about the change in Earth when the Ed episode is on and so forth. I think we were somewhat intrigued and obviously horrified at the same time, right? Scorched Earth
Right.
or whatever. I mean, Ganymede doesn't sound the worst, I guess.
It certainly seems like it's one of the few
Doing
that
better.
outside of being threatened by bioterrorism and
turned into savage baboons or whatever.
Yeah, that and the economy going down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we can all relate to that one.
Yep.
The Ganymede was one that I could think of going to visit. It seems like it'd be a pretty nice place to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
That and also it'd be fun to see Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Because evidently it's not too hot there.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
Just have to be careful of those plants.
Mm-hmm. But if you can get the seeds,
oh yeah, right. Because I can just
they're invaluable.
Right.
You didn't get any, did you?
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, is there anything you want to?
I know we didn't talk about kind of placing or the main crew in any order or anything like that. But we don't have to. Like I think for me though, I don't necessarily want to put them in a ranking or anything. But I will say after watching these again, I'd certainly have a particular character still at the top. But I will say Faye was arguably at the bottom for me. But rewatching these, Faye is a solid 2 now.
Gotcha.
So there's a big change in my opinion of the Faye character. I still am bothered by the fact that she's put into all those damsel in distress situations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That does bug me because she is far more resourceful and intelligent than those situations portray her, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'm not super a big fan of all of the sort of provocative positions they put her in, but that kind of thinking of like when she's chained up in the bathroom, right, and things like that. But she also has like some really cool scenes like in the cocktail dresses and stuff like that, right? And then next thing you know, oh no, now she's captured again. It's just like you get this great moment, and then you get to this, oh geez, back to square one.
Lots of boom and bust.
Yeah. But I've had a stronger appreciation for her episodes this time.
Yeah.
I like the way episode 23 wraps up for her because again she's
24.
24. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah,
like I had a newfound respect for the conclusion she reaches and the hope that she does get, and then so forth. So yeah, I think that's.
Does she get hopeful though?
I feel like she wanted to be at the end of the episode, right? I'm not saying she gets what she wants, but I think she's able to draw a conclusion on something, right? And close a
or at
chapter.
least some closure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she got closure to her chapter to a
Is
degree, and was hopeful.
ugh.
Like she was hopeful, but she didn't necessarily get
I
that.
think she was hopeful, but then the closure is that she's not hopeful, and then just slides back into
The very end,
what's
yes, but
constant.
in that moment, right? Had 25 and 26 not played out the way they did, and she wasn't completely crushed in that moment, because that's a really tough moment to rewatch. Actually, I remember watching it the first time being like, sure, whatever, but not really thinking
Yeah.
of her side of the thing, just more the interaction, and it's
Uh,
like, oh yeah, like this is like a killer for her. This has absolutely destroyed her.
right.
So, I mean, the last moment we see of her is her crying, right? We don't get anything after. So,
Yeah, no, she
yeah.
doesn't really get the
No
good
happy ending.
stuff.
No,
No, nope.
nobody gets a. Well, I mean, hopefully Ed does, right? But
Well, yeah, I mean, but I mean, in the same hand, what's that? It's not about the destination; it's about the journey.
right,
At least that's how some people cope with life.
yeah,
Right? So, but they gotta learn. Maybe they'll learn to be a little bit more proactive.
mm-hmm.
But I don't know. With Faye, it's it's being proactive, but it's proactive for something that is far beyond your ability to be able to control or change or what have you. So it's being proactive, but for the absolute wrong things.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I just had that, and then I don't know if you wanted to comment any further on that, but I did have one last small thing.
My position on the characters really hasn't changed. I don't think that's going to, unless there's something very drastic that kind of shifts my feeling and opinion on things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't really have any. I think though watching it and then kind of talking this out with you, I've had a little bit more of a unpacking on stuff that, whether rightly or wrongly, it's just kind of neat to discover slash not explain, but just I don't know, express.
Yeah, and just conversation. Like I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to really speak to anybody other than you, like a little bit here and there, right? And to go to the length of this was fun.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's this other little tiny thing?
Well, I think we owe it to ourselves to bounty the entire series now, do we not? Because we bountied everything else. So
oh boy,
I figured we better do that.
Fair enough.
And I wanted to spring this on you because I wasn't sure if you were thinking it as well.
I had not thought of this whatsoever.
I feel we should, though, if you're good with that.
That is fine.
I'll go first. If you don't have a bounty in mind,
please throw something out there. I have one in mind, but
okay. I mean, we can easily put an infinite bounty on this if we wanted.
Right.
I will not do that. I'll not be that cheeky. I don't know what the highest bounty we would have done for any individual episode.
Technically, the movie.
I think the movie you had a quite high. Maybe you had like a 350 or something. Because wasn't Vincent 200?
No, he was 300.
He was 300. Okay. So yeah, it's tough. I'll go with 1,000,000,001 oolong. Why not?
You're just throwing out numbers.
Yeah, hey, if they've done it to us, we'll do it to them.
Only because
are you going to go Prices Right and do 1,000,002?
No. Like I contextualize this with a cheeky. I'll give it a 96.5 million out of 100 million.
Okay.
Like it's like I love the thing to pieces. The show, the series to pieces. there's some things here and there I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
especially as I've watched it. There was actually a point at which it dipped a decent amount to me, and I don't know if it was just in the mindset I was in or whatnot, but it has gradually recaptured a lot of my joy and appreciation for the show and stuff. So that has been nice. So
great.
Yeah. So with all that said, thanks for listening, and let us know your favorite episodes or your least favorite episodes, bounties, and all that sort of fun jazz. Is there anywhere in the solar system that you want to go visit? Yeah, let us know, and all that sort of fun jazz. The end. Thanks for listening. See you, Space Cowboy.